Hello everyone. Welcome to my review of the Emerson Quiet-Cool Mini Split Air Conditioner with Inverter Heat. I went to the emersonquietcool.com website to seek more information about my 9000 BTU 115 volt unit. There is a 9000 BTU 230 volt unit listed, which I suspect is the same except for of course the 230 volt wiring. On the Home Depot website, however, there is specific information about the 115 volt unit. From here you can see lots of good pictures about all that is included with the system. There are several pictures of the evaporator and the condenser with different angles. Below this is a list of links that will take you to the documentation for the system. There is also a great description of what the system can do and a very nice bullet list of all the outstanding features for the 9000 BTU 115 volt AC inverter unit. The Emerson Quiet-Cool Split AC system arrived in two separate boxes. I decided to unbox the condenser unit first. Inside of this box were two copper tubing lines, each at 12 foot in length. There was also a condensate line and 4 pads for the bottom of the unit, and of course the power cables for the electrical hookup. The next box that we open contains the evaporator. This is the unit that will hang on the interior wall of the space that you are going to air condition and heat. Enclosed with the evaporator unit is a package containing the user manuals as well as the remote control. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Each end of the evaporator is protected by a styrofoam insert. The unit itself is extremely light and, I should say, is very attractive as well. Underneath of the evaporator unit is the mounting plate. The package that was included in the evaporator box contains the remote manual as well as an installation manual, and ours is the 9000 BTU unit, and the warranty card, which you must fill out and mail in. There's also the energy guide, a short section of tubing insulation, contains instructions for downloading the AI Home Smart app for your phone. I went to the Play Store and looked it up. Here I found inadequate information and one disgruntled user and less than 500 downloads. Anyway, if you don't want to control your air conditioner over the internet, you can always use the included remote. There's the holder for it, drywall screws and anchors for the mounting plate. Here's a condensate tube elbow and batteries for the remote. And a washer, I do believe, goes with that previous elbow that I showed you, and I'm not sure what that is. I've speeded up the installation here just for the sake of brevity. After marking the dimensions for the feed-through hole for your condensate and refrigeration lines, drill out a pilot hole. I believe this is a 1/4 inch drill bit, and make sure that you're angled downwards with that bit. Otherwise your condensate is not going to drain properly. Cut the hole, being careful not to saw through the insulation. Just get through the wood. That's all you want to do here. And then proceed to the outside and do the same thing. Move the insulation out of the way. And I finished putting the screws into the mounting plate at this point. You want to make sure that that's firmly attached. And then here we're going to straighten out these refrigeration lines and angle them so that they'll go through that hole without a problem. You want to be very gentle with the pipe here and just make incremental moves in the bend. Tape them up so that you don't have a problem with the insulation binding up as you're pushing these pipes through that hole you just made. Now some of you may have noticed that the electric part of the unit was not connected yet. We'll take care of that later. Place the condenser on your concrete pads and use it as a template to mark the holes for the anchors that you will be installing. Drill out the holes with the concrete bit and then hammer the anchors in to the concrete pad, making sure that you have a nut on the end of the anchor to protect the threads. I tightened the nuts just enough to make sure that the anchors were seated, as I'll remove them later to put the pads onto the feet. Release the pressure on the evaporator lines by pushing the bottom of the black cap on the small line. The red plunger on the larger cap will now be movable. I was then able to easily remove the two black caps. I used nylon glue to help seal the pipe fittings. Simply apply onto the mating ends and then tighten the fitting. Be careful not to over tighten or you may damage the connection and then you'll have a leak. Remove the plastic fitting protection covers and then apply the nylon glue. Make sure that you support the fitting and then tighten the nut. Being careful not to over tighten. Remove the cap on the service port and notice the Schrader style valve on the inside of the port. Here is the hose adapter that you will be using. Notice that there is a square block on one end designed to push in that Schrader valve pin that we were just looking at. Hoses that come with the manifold set are also designed with a similar block on one end. Connect your hoses to the manifold block and note the position of the valve controls as I am demonstrating here. Next, pump the system down for 15 minutes. You should be able to achieve a minus 30 micron vacuum level. Next, turn off the valve that goes to the hose that is connected to the vacuum pump and turn off the vacuum pump. Wait several hours and check the vacuum gauge to make sure that it is holding vacuum. I use this wait period to hook up the power and control lines between the evaporator and condenser. After making sure that the system was holding a vacuum, I disconnected the vacuum manifold. Next, I opened up the valves that release the refrigerant into the copper lines. After releasing refrigerant into the copper lines, you'll want to check the joints for leakage using soapy water. I then turned on the system and checked it for cooling efficiency, and indeed it was cooling things off. What a relief. And sure enough, the condenser was doing its job also. This concludes my review, and thanks for watching. I hope you found it helpful.